Hello and welcome to the Yoga Life podcast with your host, me, Kevin Boyle. This podcast is one about yoga and one about life. And before I get going into introducing my guest, let me take you through a few events I've got coming up in chronological order. So the first one, Heels Overhead, that's sold out. That's August 31st. You can still join the waiting list for that. It's a handstand workshop in Greystones. The next one is Dan Morgan, an audience with live podcast in Yoga Hub in Camden Court. Now this is a free event. There's about 26 people booked in. I've upped it to 30, so there's a few spaces left. If you want to grab your ticket, you can. It's free. Also, the retreat I have coming up in September 13th is, we've had 2 people cancel at the last, not pretty much last moment. So there's 2 spaces left for that. That's going to be in the Wicklow Mountains for over a weekend on September 13th. And the final thing is the other Heels Overhead workshop, which is in Sligo, in Salt and Soul. This has only just been announced last week. That's on 14th of December. And there's loads of spaces because it's just been announced. All that information can be found on my website, kevinboyleyoga.ie. This podcast is brought to you by Small Changes. Small Changes are an eco-friendly, organic whole food store based here in Dublin, Ireland. They offer products, food, things for the house. I get my stuff from there a lot. And they also offer refillables, so you can go in and you can refill your laundry detergent, whatever you need to refill, you can refill it in Small Changes. You can visit their website, smallchanges.ie, and go along. Feel free to tell them that Kevin sent you. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate if you share it with your friends or with your family via your IG stories. Also leave a review on iTunes, because that really helps. If you leave a 5-star review, it gives me more visibility, or so I hear. And I really appreciate the reviews. It's really cool. Unfortunately, I have no way of replying back to you. So, but thank you if you've left a review. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest, Liz Costigan Fleury. Liz was a guest on the podcast back in the Dizzy. So this was episode 16, which was like September last year. And since then, she's had 2 babies, twins. And so a lot has changed for her. And that journey was challenging for her. So I hope that this podcast helps. I hope you find it interesting for a start. And maybe it helps you if you're thinking about becoming a parent, or you are a parent. And, because it's a big undertaking. So Liz is lovely. I wish I had longer to talk to her, but she had to go and get her eyebrows done. So there you go. I really hope you enjoy this podcast. Here's Liz. Where are you going at 3?
To get my eyebrows done. You're laughing, but they haven't been done in 6 weeks, and it's like really bad.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me into your lovely home.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
I'm on the road. You couldn't come to me because you're busy, aren't you?
Just a little bit, yeah. Travelling is a little bit harder now than it was this time last year.
Why is that?
I had 2 babies.
Oh, I see.
Oh, wow.
At the same time?
Pretty much within 1 minute of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have twins.
Yeah.
2 little boys.
Nice one. And what age are they?
So officially they were born on the 9th of May, so they're 14 weeks. But they were supposed to be born on the 31st of July, so they're actually only 3 weeks corrected, is how they say it. So
how are you going to work the birthday then?
They'll get 1 birthday.
Okay.
They'll think they'll get 2, but they'll get 1. May 9th. Yeah. So it's been a bit crazy.
What's it like to be a mother? Oh, because I'll never know.
I know you'll never know. But look, it's very early days to ask that question. But to be fair, people say that you're a mother, once you conceive, and I didn't feel like that. I spent probably the first couple of weeks of my pregnancy a little bit overwhelmed at being pregnant, even though we had been trying. overwhelmed at having twins and how things were going to change. So I didn't feel that instant, I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to be this earth goddess, it just didn't. About 14 weeks into the pregnancy, my good friend Kitty McGuire said to me, you need to go to Uma's workshop. Uma Dinsmore Tooley. She's amazing.
Excuse me?
Yeah, that's a name.
Uma?
Dinsmore.
Yeah.
Tooley. No, I'm probably pronouncing it
She
wrong.
Irish?
No, she's English and her husband is Indian.
Okay.
So she's womb yoga, feminine divine, all of the pregnancy yoga. She's just an amazing woman. And she was doing a pregnancy yoga teacher training in London, which was back in February, where I was about 14 weeks pregnant. So I went to that and spent a week there on my own, just completely immersed. A room of 40 women, 22 of whom were pregnant, and left there feeling like that earth goddess mama, like just, I am a rock star. It was brilliant because I suppose she really helped us to embrace the fact that we were stronger. I used to always think that being pregnant meant you couldn't do certain things and you were weaker because you weren't able to do as much as before, or you were restricted, and so that was a negative thing, where she really helped us to embrace and kind of look into that side, that the strength that comes from being slower, from resting more, that incredible feminine side that we all have, embracing that rather than power and strength comes from being busy, and the faster you go and the more you do, the better you are. That actually there's a huge amount of strength in slowing down, there's a huge amount of strength in letting go. So it was incredibly therapeutic, cathartic, amazing for me. So that was week 14 of my pregnancy, which is about 4 months in, and I really enjoyed the next couple of weeks. And then sadly my waters broke at 23 weeks, which is really bad news, because your babies aren't what they call viable, which is a horrible word. Yeah. Yeah. So you've got, just awful statistics and whatnot. So I spent 5 weeks in hospital holding the babies in bed rest for yogi, runner, spinny Liz. Can you imagine?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard. And then the boys came at 28 weeks, which is just, it's kind of that, the doctors had said to us, try to get to 28 weeks. Before 28 weeks, there's so many complications. Beyond 28 weeks, things are a little bit easier to handle. Beyond 30 weeks, they're a lot easier to handle. Beyond 34, every single day counts. And the boys arrived 28 weeks plus 1 day, 9th of May.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fair play, Liz.
Yeah, I don't think I realise what we've been through in a way yet, because then we spent 13-ish weeks in ICU, HDU, high dependency, in the Coombe, up and down, feeding the boys, having them in an incubator. They weren't sick, but they were just small. But it was a very difficult environment to be in.
What, the ICU?
Yes, because it's intensive care. So your boys...
What does ICU stand for?
Intensive care unit. Yeah, well done. Yeah, you caught yourself in time. Yeah, it's all right. Have a sip of that tea.
Yeah.
Do you sure you don't want a coffee? So you're just surrounded by like intensively critical babies. Now our babies weren't. They were there because they were so young and so tiny. Jules was 990 grams and Zach was 1 kilo. So they were small, but they didn't have any complications. Lots of babies in there had complications. Lots of babies didn't survive. So you're surrounded by that all the time. And then you've had your baby. You don't hold your babies. They're attached to monitors. All of that. So it's just a bit shitty. It's not the natural way that Yogi Liz would have loved to have had her babies,
I am such... I have been known to not be a fan of Western medicine, but because of my own experiences. But thank God for Western medicine in this...
Oh, yeah.
In this circumstance.
Totally. Because no, birthing pool, hypnobirthing, like natural way would have enabled them to survive. However, it's that connection, I think, to yoga and the breath and all of that all of the practices that got me through, that has me here, pretty much doing okay. The 5 weeks that I spent in hospital on my own was probably incredible learning for me, because I never had massive trauma in my life. Thankfully, I've had, obviously I've had grandparents die and heartbreak from relationships and things like that, but I've never really had, a massive trauma. And I've always wondered to myself, I always pipe on about how wonderful yoga and meditation is, and how running and how therapeutic it is, and how it's so important to, care for your body and mind yourself, and self-care, blah, blah, blah. But that's all fine and dandy when you're living, a pretty privileged life. And I always wondered, would this still stand to me when the going got tough, and the going got really tough, and it, over and above, it saved my life. So my practices had to change. So I couldn't go and do my, morning practice or my morning run. But I would get up and I would shower, and I would leave the hospital and take a walk. And it was a slow, short walk, but that was my yoga, that was my running. And I replaced, I did a lot of meditation that I wouldn't usually have done, because I had nothing else to do. It was like, I can't exercise, so I need to find some other way to calm. And so I did a lot of guided meditations and a lot of yoga nidras and a lot of breath work, did a lot of reading on hypnobirthing, a lot of positive affirmations, a lot of visualization, a lot of journaling. All of that was part of a daily routine that I created for myself when I was in there.
I think sometimes people think of meditation as you got to sit cross-legged and sitting down, and that puts people off because people find it hard to sit. But you could, if anyone has ever tried a walking meditation, where I did, I won't go into why I did it, because just because it's very personal and just it involves someone else. So I'm not going to go into why I went through this walking meditation phase. But I remember walking down the beach. I think I was in somewhere down the countryside in Ireland, and every step I took, I would look at my foot and just place it down as if like I was placing like the first man on the moon or something. And also looking at the sky, looking at the clouds, looking at the birds, listening, hearing the birds as if it's the first time I've ever heard them. And it was someone else who taught me this walking meditation. And so you can meditate in loads of different ways, but and it makes a huge difference. But as you said, I think that sometimes, and I was chatting to Mandalay Kuhn a couple of weeks ago about this, how I'm so kind of preoccupied with the physical side of yoga that I realised one day a circumstance may happen in my life where I can't use my body, or perhaps one day I'll become immobile, and therefore that's why it's so important to develop the other side of the practice.
Absolutely.
And so it's great that really helped you.
Yeah, it really was, because I have always been more asana focused. And I used to say, imagine if something happened, like I broke my leg, or I never thought healthy Liz would be on bed rest, at 23 weeks of pregnancy. And it was I've worked through quite a lot of anger, because I was so angry that I didn't get to have the pregnancy that most other people do. I was so angry that everything I've done, everything positive that I've done for my body, all the kale I've eaten, didn't make a difference, but it does make a difference. It makes a difference to my head and my heart. But I think it was a big learning curve as well, in that we can get really obsessed with living well and the wellness world, and having X is so bad for you, and the more kale you have and the more this you have, the better it's bullshit. It's a huge industry that we've been sold.
Yeah, and, that's interesting. Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I've realised, and actually my girlfriend Rachel, she's helped me to realise this, that I have in the past been interested in the outcome of everything. Like, if I eat this, I'll be like this. If I do this, I'll be like this. And that is attachment to the outcome. Instead of, say, for example, it sounds superficial, but eating kale. Are you eating kale because you think it puts you in a certain tribe, and it's going to give you a six-pack or whatever? Or are you eating kale because you have a body, you should be grateful that you have a body, and you should really look after it?
Yeah.
And to eat kale for the simple joy of being able to eat and enjoy kale.
Yeah. And for the real true properties of whatever kale, does for you. It's okay to say, I'm having it because it's going to do this for my liver and that for my whatever, my blood. But yeah, totally. We're all very much attached to the outcome and it's all that, the Instagram, the photographs, the way we should be living. Everyone's so quick to tell us how we should be living. And I guess this whole journey, this, for want of another word, this whole experience has just shown me that none of us have a clue what's around the corner. None of us. But it has made me really grateful for the awareness of self-care and the awareness that, we have to work on that every single day, even when the going is good. So that when the going gets tough, that your practices are strong enough for you to fall back on,
But also there is, I read an article about this. I mean, you can read articles about cancer that will tell you X, Y, and Z and what the cause is. But pretty much it was saying that most cancers, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just genetic or hereditary. But again, I am changing my philosophies now, and I'm eating so well. I very rarely eat out for a start. I cook myself a lot. I've actually stopped drinking coffee as well.
Okay.
And I started drinking nettle tea, and I just got a water distillation machine that came just in the post today, actually. And I'm doing this because I feel more centered when this way, when I feel better and more in touch with myself, I suppose.
That's a really good reason.
Yeah, and that's another thing why I've stopped. I've really reduced my usage of social media. I've like, for example, sharing loads of stuff on stories. I've decided to. I was at a wedding 2 weeks ago, and I looked really smart. I was the groomsman, and my missus looked really pretty, and she looked. And it's the first time we've been out together on a night out, and I mean, we've been going out for over a year. Yeah, it's the first time because I don't drink alcohol anymore. But that night, it was my best mate getting married, and I said, "Do you know what? I'm gonna have a couple of beers, whatever." And so I did that, and I remember thinking, "Do I bring my camera with me?" And actually, I ended up saying, no, I'm not going to take a picture of this moment. Although part of me was like, I wish I had a picture of me and her together, dressed up. But then the other part of me thought, no, I'm going to draw a line now. I'm going to actually say to myself, there's a kind of a line of the demarcation between social media for yoga and my personal stuff. Yeah. Because otherwise it's going to be non-stop. Yeah, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm probably going to get a dog, for example, and it'd be very hard for me not to share pictures of a dog because you want to share pictures of things you love, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
But I just found that I've just made a conscious decision to not document everything, and to just to kind of have a bit more balance.
To create a boundary. I think it's hard.
That's the word.
I think it's really hard because, you want to be authentic and you want to be you and you want to share your life and your experiences to help others and to motivate other people to, take the yoga road and to, that's what the whole point of it is, isn't it? Really? Well, for me, certainly. So it's hard to just then cut off the fact that I have a husband, 2 babies, that I've, family and friends that I do other things with. But there's, you can create balance, I think. Oversharing is definitely, there's a lot of that.
I mean, I'm going to I'm going to document this water distillation machine. I know it sounds very boring.
I won't watch that story.
Thank you.
I just won't.
But you might be amazed at how it works. Maybe I will. Yeah, because but I know what you're saying. I mean, getting more encouraging more people to yoga and to kind of, I suppose, share knowledge, as it were. What's now that you've had children? I mean, I suppose we should talk about
what
your like obviously you're going to be a mother now for a while, a full-time mother.
I think I have to be a mother forever now.
Is that it?
Apparently so. I was thinking 6 weeks, but no, apparently it goes for a while. And then I was like, okay, like I'll push it to, do they go to school or 18 even? No, forever.
Yeah.
Once they're alive, I'm a mom. And even I think if, God forbid. Anyway, let's not go down.
No, come on now.
All right, I'll come back.
But I mean, saying you're a full-time mother, as it were. But are you going to go and teach spin yoga again?
Yes, definitely. Even just the boys are 14 weeks old now. I always kind of knew that I would not want to be a full-time stay-at-home mom forever and ever, but I certainly do want for the next few months for sure. You don't really have an option when you have twins in a way, I don't think, but I just want to be here. I want to be here. I want to just be here with them and mind them and watch them grow and do all that stuff, but I always want to remain connected to that other side of me, which I am doing. Doing this feels like I'm working, in a way. I'm staying connected, and that's why I was thrilled when he reached out. I taught a class with the Happy Pair last month. I'm doing BO, one of the wellness events, next month. I'm going to go back to Little Bird and do a few yoga suppers before the end of the year, some corporate work. So I still have my fingers in some pies, because that's what makes me happy. And I am a mom, and at the moment it is probably my most important role, and maybe it'll be the most important role I'll ever have. But I also, I'm also me, and I want to stay connected to that, and that brings me joy. And a happy mommy is really important for Jules and Zach.
But also, Liz, there seems to be a huge need for people who are mothers sharing their experience. This is what I've noticed. Like, I've seen people on Instagram, for example, who are they're essentially, their job is obviously as a mother. That is the most important job, to be a parent. But then they share like advice, tips, stories on what it's like to be a mother. And I think that could be value, because you're a very good speaker anyway, and you could, almost diversify into that, couldn't you? Totally. Is that something that interests you?
Yeah, and I mean, I've been doing quite a lot of Instagram throughout this whole journey, and but with respect to the fact that not everybody that follows me or that comes to my classes or whatever are parents. So I need to remain, respectful of them too, because, I don't want to take a complete U-turn either. So what I try to do is, this difficult road that we've been on, talking about it from the difficult road that I've been on as a mother, but also this is no different to, if you don't have children and, you're going through a difficult time, it's the tools that I'm using to help me can help anyone if they've, they're going through a difficult time in their relationships or with work or in their personal, it can be, what I'm trying to share is that, you can get through it no matter what. And I think I'm naturally probably going to take more of I definitely would like to teach pregnancy yoga. I definitely would like to do something for that fourth trimester that nobody talks about, the weeks after the baby comes home. I'd like to help mums in that time. How, I don't know. I'm sharing a lot on Instagram about the difficulties that I have. I haven't shared everything yet, because I think when you're in it, sometimes I'm in the difficulties at the moment, and to be honest, it's a little bit raw to be sharing it on Instagram. And I know it's important to share and be authentic, but people don't need my snots and tears just yet. But no, I want to use this experience in a positive way, without sounding cliche, but I want to kind of help people. And I know already I have, because I know that there's lots of people who've gone through, who've had preemie babies, who've had what happened to me happen to them. And I've helped them, and I think that's really important. And it makes you, going back to what we were saying about earlier about social media, like, it is such a pain, but it has just given me nothing but strength in the last, 4 months. I can't even, every time I talk about it, I get emotional because of the outpour. It's, the amount of people who reached out that I've never met, I've never encountered, never had any contact with, sending me messages, sending me presents to the hospital, you know, cards.
Wow. Oh my God.
You know, just small gestures of, you know, you're okay, you're going to be okay, you know, here's a bar of chocolate and a magazine and a card and you're going to get through this kind of thing, you know, and it's incredible, and it makes you feel really just, I suppose it gives you that faith that, you know, humans are pretty amazing at the end of the day, mostly.
I think, and that's an excellent point. What I'm saying about social media is that, like, to, as you said, to have boundaries, but I have found it to be a brilliant tool. And just to remember is that it is a tool, and it's been unbelievably, it's changed everything for me completely. I mean, retreats, workshops, all that kind of stuff, like creating a community, and through the podcast as well, because it's ironic really that technology gives us so much freedom, but at the same time it can really isolate us because we don't necessarily need other people. That's what I really like about this podcast, because there might be someone listening to this in their car right now, and I'm sure they have times where they feel isolated, they feel alone. And I reckon this is particularly true, and this is an assumption now, so tell me if I'm wrong, for women that have just had a baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because whatever you want to believe, but from what I've studied, once upon a time in hunter-gatherer societies, they say, like, it takes a village to raise a child. So even when I lived in Korea, 2 generations before that, for example, they would, the whole family would raise the child, and even they would breastfeeding would be shared as well.
Oh my God!
Now hopefully there's no Koreans going to, but
that would be so handy.
but now this is kind of anecdotal, as it were, because I lived there for 2 years. But
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and also as well, how it worked in Korea is the parents would go to work, and they would normally have like quite demanding jobs, and the grandparents would raise the children, and they'd either all live together or they live very close. But it was the exact same way for my grandparents. They all lived in the same house. You lived in the house with your parents and your children, and that is being lost now because we're all moving away. Because we're allowed to move away because we have technology. We don't need to work in the same town that we live in the same town, work in. But I really do think what you're doing and what you have the potential to do, especially with the public speaking, that's a whole new area that can really help people.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope I can leverage it and do it the right way. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
when you were like pregnant and then you had your children, were you like, do you read books and stuff? How does it? Because I would like to be a father.
As in, how do you do it?
Yeah, I'm 38 very soon, and I was thinking, if I'm a father, I was thinking I've got grey hairs on the sides and stuff. If I'm a father by 40, let's say if, you know, when they're 20, I'll be 60.
I know.
When I'm 70, they'll be 30.
Me too.
And I'm thinking, I better get a crack on.
Yeah, I think though, like 60s and 70s, and
that's the new 40s.
It's totally the new 40s. That's what I'm telling myself as a almost 40-year-old mom. Yeah, no, you can't think like that. You just can't, because you just don't know what's around the corner. And if you start doing that, sure, you'll just go mad. You will, you know. No, I can't. I did, and I would freak out. And Seb is older than me, my husband, and so. Like, he's 47, so he'll be 67 when the babies are 20. He'll be 67 when the babies are 20. All of that, like, no, can't even go there. Don't even think about it. There are no books, and it's a complete shitstorm.
There are no books.
No, there are no books. Like, there's 1,000 gazillion trillion books, but they're really it's. I didn't read any books because everything happened so quickly for us, and we were always on the back foot. We were always like, okay, water's broke. We didn't even have car seats to bring our babies home. It's like the most essential thing. Our nursery, I mean, it's an absolute disaster up there. There's no wardrobes in the nursery even. Like, everything we've done, you know, we've kind of we just didn't get the chance to have that third trimester where everyone gets prepared and nests and all that. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask, and I probably would have read a lot of books, and now I can see it even with the breastfeeding, you know, and everything that's going on for us. We don't really know. It's like, do babies nap? Do babies do this? Like, how much should they have? How fat should they get? And, you know, all of this. But I think that there's lots and lots of books out there. But I think that from what I can see, your baby is unique. It's a little human. I mean, they don't do a hell of a lot at the moment, but they have their own character, they have their own needs, their desires, and ultimately all they need to do is to be fed and loved at the moment. And everything else is just someone else's opinion on how it worked for them. And there's always like, well, you do it this way, but your babies were premature and they're twins, and you know, they're boys, they're whatever.
The variables can change so much, can't they?
So
I mean, but then what, you know, once upon a time it was the mother would pass down, or and maybe that is why. So are you saying that you're kind of working more on your intuition or your instincts?
I'm winging it. I have a clue what I'm doing.
I try to make it a bit more poetic.
Oh no, I'm totally winging it, and I'm asking like all the other mammies around me, and like my mom is great, but her last baby was born 34 years ago, so things have changed a bit, you know, and also like the way we parent is different now as well. So I'm asking all the other mammies who are around me, all my friends and stuff who are super inspirational, and they give me their ideas. But yeah, ultimately you're doing it on your own instinct. You're saying to yourself, you know what, Jules is asleep right now. I'm not going to wake him up. Zach looks a bit unhappy there. I think I'll try and, I don't know, burp him, whatever. I think you need to trust yourself, and it's very difficult to do that as a new mum and a new dad. Really difficult, because you haven't a clue, and these babies are totally reliant on you, and it's really freaking overwhelming, and it's really, really tough. And I remember having a conversation with friends of mine the week before the babies came, saying, oh, I'm just so sick of listening to parents saying it's tough. Like, I mean, how tough can it be? Whatevs. And now I'm learning, because it's emotionally incredibly difficult. You're sleep deprived. You don't know what these two little babies need. Your life has changed irreversibly. You've got really dark moments. And I've been really honest when I say that. Just really dark moments where you can't soothe them. You haven't had much sleep. It's the middle of the night. And it's just all consuming. It's very early days for me. Like, even though the boys were born the 9th of May, they're really only 4 weeks old. So people say that the first 6 weeks are the hardest, because you're so overwhelmed with everything. Nothing has any kind of rhythm or rhyme. There's no routine. There's nothing, you know, if you look online or ask any experts about sleeping, they say don't even come to me before 3-6 months. These babies just kind of do. And that's the other thing I loved and hated about this whole experience, is that I feel from the start these babies had their own idea of how things were going to work out. And even when you're in ICU, the doctors and the nurses were unbelievable in the Coombe, like incredible. But ultimately, a lot of the time, the answer was, we'll see what the babies decide, because they decide, you know, they do. And I don't think we give them as much credit. Obviously, their brains and everything, their organs and all that are quite immature, but their little spirits aren't. And they decide. And I always remember thinking, like, Zach, am I close enough to the mic? Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Jules was the little boy. I still find it really hard to go my son, you know, he's mad. Yeah. Jules, my son, yeah. It was his waters that broke, so he was kind of always again on the back foot, always kind of weaker than Zach. And me and him would have conversations at night, obviously one way, but I would say to him, you know, baby, I need you to do this for me, you know, mommy's struggling this week, like I can't stay here much longer, you know, please will you just, you know, get yourself together, get your lungs nice and strong so you can come home. And I swear to God, the amount of conversations I had with him about things, and 2 or 3 days later something would turn around. It was too much of a coincidence. So I believe that Jules especially was listening to me, and that they do have this, like, we have this connection from way back.
Yeah.
They say that your babies choose you. So
What do you mean?
that they're spirits that choose you. So they choose their parents. That's what they say.
Yeah, it's that question of like, you know, if that's interesting. They choose their parents. I want like how I wonder how their personality forms as well. Like how much do you think about how much influence you have over that? I suppose.
Oh my God, yeah. That kind of scares me sometimes too, because I'm really conscious of trying to be the best version of me.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always happen at 3:00 in the morning when they're screaming the house down and you're wrecked, tired, and trying to look after them. Honestly,
Are you going to do the nanny thing, the au pair?
no, I don't know. I don't know yet. I think what we're going to do for the time being is manage it within their family, you know, between myself and Seb, my mum and dad, my brother. And then when I go back to work, luckily, as you know, it's not going to be 9 to 5. So I'd say mum and dad will do a lot. And we'll potentially get a doula, you know, to come in from time to time. We'll see, Kev. I don't actually know how it's going to work when Seb goes back to work. Because it is full on. But look, I feel today I'm really positive. I'm in a really good place. And I feel like they are teaching me so much already.
Yeah.
They're teaching me so much already. They are, you know, the aspects of myself that I suppose I wouldn't necessarily be too proud of. They are challenging those aspects every single day. So I'm hoping that at the end of this or throughout this, you know, it's going to make me a better person.
And you know, one activity you don't need to use your body for is podcasting. So
yes.
So I did that. When's yours going to start?
Done. Well, as I said to you
No
earlier
pressure.
on, this side of 2019, I'm hoping. I've all my equipment, I have my space, I have my guests. I had it all ready to go the week my waters broke, but it wasn't to be. So I'm gonna say autumn.
Okay, excellent.
Autumn.
So Liz, where do people find you?
Where will people find me?
Apart from
Instagram. So I'm down in Inchicore, but otherwise,
if you want to do some babysitting,
yeah, totally come. If you could come around 3 a.m, 4 a.m, that would be best. I'm on Instagram, Liz Costigan Fleury, and lizcostiganfleury.com.
And you got a website now, haven't you?
Yeah, lizcostiganfleury.com.
Fleury is spelled which way?
Fleury.
Yeah, cool. All right, Liz. That's it.
Sorry to cut it short, but I have 2 babies.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Kev. Oh, thanks,
Well
love.
done. Thanks so much for listening, as always. Again, before I let you go, a little bit of housekeeping. The next workshop on August 31st is sold out. So you can join the waiting list. That's in Greystones, Handstand Workshop, Heels Overhead, August 31st. If you join the wait list, if someone drops out, then you'll be the first person to get called, and you don't have to pay to join the waitlist. It's free. Another thing that's free is the Dan Morgan podcast, which we're going to do live in the Yoga Hub on September 7th. That's the following weekend. Tickets are free. There's about 4-5 maybe tickets left for that. So you can find them on Eventbrite. The other thing is the Wicklow Mountains retreat. Lo and behold, wouldn't you know that 2 people have cancelled? And it's on the 13th of December. So 2 people are out. That means we've got room for 2 more people to come and join us in the Wicklow Mountains for 3 days of retreating. Hot tubs, hikes, yoga, lovely, all fully catered, the whole kit and caboodle. And the last event I have is the Heels Overhead workshop in Sligo in Salt and Soul. I was there a few weeks ago, and it's a really lovely studio out near the sea, man. So so come along to that if you'd like. All information can be found. That's on the 14th of December. All information can be found on my website, which is kevinboyleyoga.ie, and you just go to events and retreats, and it's all there for you. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Small Changes, my local organic whole food store. I really believe that I've started to also distill my water, but that's another topic. I'm going to talk about that another time. But I really believe that we need to, it's good for us to eat as organic as we can, because our soil quality is depleting, and therefore our food is depleting in its nutritional value. So eat organic when you can. Try to reduce your waste. I know it's not easy, but every little effort helps. If you get a chance to check out Small Changes, they're here in Drumcondra, Dublin 9. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it on IG stories. If you like something in particular, let me know. If you've got any questions, let me know. And as always, if you leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars, then it really helps. So yeah, that's it. Thanks so much as always, and feel free to get in touch with me on Instagram, kevinboyleyoga. Have a good one. Look after yourself. Chat to you next week.